Hello everyone, welcome back to another check-in, week 17, and oh, we are so close. So I have so many things to go over with you this week. Obviously, all my data as usual. I have some bikinis here to show you. I've got a couple of great questions that have been submitted on YouTube. Of course, as every week I post my new recipes to our, weekly grocery recipe overhaul sheet and a host of other good things. So I hope that you can stick around. This is going to be like another 45-minute to 60-minute update with lots of information that I think is going to help you guys with your own journey to health and fitness. So I guess let's talk about shows. So I got my second lot of bikinis back and they still need alterations. So I had originally planned on competing this weekend here in Boca Raton at the Natural Grand Prix, which I believe is on Sunday. But I'm not going to have my adjustments made in time, which is really frustrating because I paid for the show, everything's booked and organized, and I don't know that it's refundable, which is a little bit disappointing. So we'll have to find out whether I'm able to get a credit for another show. But I've also booked and I'm entered into the Pittsburgh Pro Am, which is arguably the biggest show I think of the year. So very nervous. I'm going to have a stacked lineup, lots of competitors in that particular show. So I am going to have to bring my A game, that is for sure. So counting down the days, and I have had to be flexible. I think you guys, if you've been tuning in from the beginning, there have been so many kind of moving parts for this journey. Normally I'm, locked in, I've got a date and, I just kind of prep for that particular show. But I just haven't been able to do that this year with all of the puzzle pieces have had to fall into place for this to work, but we are so ready. But this week I've had another good amount, of body comp changes, though again, the scale doesn't necessarily really tell the true progress that I am seeing in the mirror. I think I'm probably a pound down now from what I need to be for this competition, which, I can do that in a week. So this past week, if we have a look at my data, I am down by 1.47 on average. So last week I weighed in on average 134.3, and again that was coming off my cycle, so it was a little bit skewed. So towards the end of the week I was kind of sitting around this 133, 132 number. So technically speaking, the two weigh-ins that I have had have not really changed a whole lot, but in terms of what I am seeing visibly, major changes. So I'm really happy with how I am progressing. The weekly average drop is 1.47 pounds. So this is really the number that I pay attention to. I try not to get caught up on any individual data points like you can see here. If I let this 135 day, consume me, I would be so upset. But it's so important again to kind of look through all the logical reasons for why our weight fluctuates. So definitely made some more great progress this week, and I was not compliant. So we may as well pop over and have a look at my nutrition tracking data for the week. So you can see here in this section that I am highlighting all of my tracked data. I actually forgot to copy across all of my sodium, but I dare say it's probably in the ballpark. My food choices haven't really changed a whole lot, at least those that I'm having at home. And then when I do eat out, it's basically the same type of dish from the same couple of restaurants. So, they're all kind of in rotation. So in terms of my nutrition, let's have a look at my day-to-day calorie intake. So starting on Monday last week, already overshot it from the get-go. So 1338, my targets, if we go back across to have a look at my adjustments, have been 1268. So that means I'd be having to hit on average 120 grams of carbohydrate and 32 grams of fats. So I was a little bit high on this particular day already, and that's not because I am not trying my damn best. I am freaking starving. So, on some of these really long work days, and at the moment they're all long work days after I finish my normal, day-to-day meetings and, content writing and filming, there's always something to do with the app or writing or just other organizational type tasks. So I'm staying up really late and I'm still hungry. So consequently, I have an extra bite of some strawberries or a little serving of yogurt, and it puts me over by, 100 calories or so. So started off the week without a really great start, unfortunately, and Tuesday didn't get a whole lot better. You can see here I was at 147 and 58, and the 58 came from some high-fat protein bars, I'm going to guess. I can't recall exactly what I had on Tuesday, but I mean, it was a lot of calories. And I do recall, I think on Tuesday after work, I had finished all my client check-ins, and, you know, I was kind of mentally exhausted. And I think when we kind of find ourselves in that, you know, psychologically exhausted state, it tends to be when we make the poorest or the worst decisions with regards to our nutrition. So I do recall standing in the kitchen, just being like, okay, I need something else. Okay, I make 3 rice cakes with some cream cheese, and I'm like, I'm still not hungry. I mean, I'm still not satiated. So it was like, okay, what else can I have? Okay, all right, I'll have a bowl of yogurt with some fresh berries, and I'll finish that. And I remember thinking, I am just freaking starving. So it was kind of like just going through all of the light, low-calorie snacks that I have. And I think collectively, after the hours of like 9 p.m., I probably had 400 calories. I do recall doing a pretty good job because I'd prepped lots of meals this week. So I'd gotten to my goal by about 8 p.m., but it's just that extra time in the evenings when I am staying up and still trying to get work done. I'm just so hungry. So that was a really challenging day. I know when I went to bed, I was not feeling very positive at all. I was like, oh my gosh, you just stop, you know, suck it up. But, you know, there's only so much restraint that you can have when your stomach is doing like little circles. So the next day, it kind of got back on track. Thursday, 1402, still not great. And then towards the weekend, I was able to kind of keep it below 1350 or thereabouts. So a little bit of up and down with my protein, but I actually came in over my target for the week. Some of the days here you can see where I'm just trying my damn best to not eat like calorically dense foods and opting for protein only. I did have quite a bit of, I guess, sugar-free Jell-O on the weekends, and I must have like every coloured packet that there is. I've got the rainbow lined up in my refrigerator right now. It's kind of funny, very colourful. But you know, that day I had 155 grams of protein, which is definitely on the upper end of like my requirements based on my current lean body mass. So a little bit of bouncing around there, but again, I'm still within that protein reference range. I'm happy with that. I think, you know, historically, the years of my competitions where I have tried to be perfect every single day have probably been the years where I've felt the most psychological strain, you know, the stress, the anxiety, you know, all of those kind of negative emotions that tend to build up. So again, I think just in being able to reflect back on past dieting bouts, that extra pressure of having to nail something within such a tight range honestly just led to this this feeling of deprivation. And then that feeling of deprivation is what kind of fueled like binge eating episodes or just over consuming. So I think giving myself a little bit more flexibility with my protein and not having to have it perfect every day has definitely allowed for a more comfortable prep, I guess, in terms of not feeling so deprived. It's opened up a little bit more flexibility for carbs and fats if I have needed it. So overall, that has allowed me to be a lot more consistent, at least in hitting my calories, than it has in past years where I've been a lot more, you know, strict, where there's this like robotic control of like 2% or something like that. And I used to, you know, preach that. But I can also see the downsides, again, depending on the individual. Some people don't have any issues doing that, but if you are having trouble or a difficult time being adherent to a set task and it's causing you to kind of dive off the deep end, then, you know, a nice alternative might be to kind of loosen the reins a little bit and give yourself that permission for some flexibility. So that is, I guess, my overall tracking for the week. I still did a pretty good job with dietary fiber. Lots of the meals that I have at the moment are very voluminous. I have a delicious breakfast that I have been having, and honestly, it's the first time I've reintroduced this for this entire prep. It's a meal that I used to have all the time and I forgot about it. So it's available and linked in the, I guess, grocery Shopee list recipe list that's featured in the description of this video. You just got to scroll because there are lots of links to different products and resources, links to our coaching, all of that stuff's in the description. So you've got to just kind of go down the list and find the one that says Holly's Prep Recipes, and you'll get access to that document. So you'll see this delicious egg white and beef omelette that I have, and it's got so many veggies in there. I've been doing a couple of other different iterations of stir-fried veggies with different sauces. So many good meals at the moment that are very high in fiber. And then I've also been taking advantage of the low-carb wraps that are very fibrous, and they have been super helpful. I've had one particular dish, I don't know what we'll call this, guys. It's just a random thing, but I'll put it up on the screen. It's like a high fiber sweet crepe stack, but it's not a crepe. It's just the wraps, and they kind of layer up, and I'll put Greek yogurt mixed in with, you know, this morning, for instance, I had like a cinnamon cereal protein powder mixed in with fat-free Greek yogurt, and then a bunch of berries and, you know, some kind of, you know, low calorie spread or drizzle that I might have laying around the house. So that's been good to kind of hit the cravings if I need something sweet. But also extremely fibrous, very filling, and really hits the spot. So lots of good foods this week, that's for sure. I can't wait to also go through and show you some of the things that I had when I was out on the weekend, which was super fun. But let's keep going through the data. So 110% compliant, so a little bit over my overall calorie target, but, you know, again, at this stage, I'm doing a lot of movement. I'm still seeing physical progress in the mirror, you know, each week, though it is small and slow, I'm still moving forwards, which is excellent. Now, I wanted to also jump over and quickly show you my, I guess, trajectory trend sheets. So based on the speed that I've actually been losing, which has been very, very slow, my average weekly rate of weight loss is 0.3%. So it's a very slow prep. Typically I'll start out my prep with the envision or the vision of doing 0.8, maybe up to 1% of my body weight per week, depending on the time constraints. So it's a lot slower this year at 0.4 of a pound each week. So definitely not my typical prep, but it's actually made it a lot more enjoyable and sustainable. Despite how much I might complain, it's still way easier than previous preps where I put a lot more pressure on myself to lose in a faster rate of time. So that's my target rate of weight loss. But let's go over and look at, I guess, some of my other subjective data. So this week, my sleep has come down again. And I will say, with every day that passes, my ability to get a good, like, deep night's sleep has just been wavering. Like last night, I feel like I was awake the whole night, but I was also so tired. And you know when you're so exhausted and you feel like you're just sleeping in a cloud. I was like, oh, this is so comfortable. I'm so tired. So I know I was a happy sleeper, but I don't think I was really sleeping very well. In fact, I must have gotten up like 6 times to go to the bathroom. And again, I think part of this is just probably increased fluid consumption. I'm having a lot more like diet soda and beverages like that to kind of just get me through. And then also just more easily woken throughout the night. So that was and has been really frustrating. This week, I'm absolutely going to be mandating myself with like a 3 to 5 milligrams of melatonin just to make sure that I get a good night's sleep, because it is starting to kind of catch up with me, at least in terms of my body and how I'm feeling. Like I'm really sore. So muscle soreness is still sitting at a 7 out of 10. I haven't had time to do any foam roller. I'm so frustrated and disappointed, but it is what it is. I feel like I just need somebody to like get their elbows and just like drag it up my back. It's so incredibly tight. I'll get one of those like massage guns and just like drill it for an hour. But yeah, I can tell, even feel like my psoas on the front side, everything is just like wound up so tight. So I definitely need to get myself into a good massage or something, and maybe I will this weekend. I've got some fun things planned this weekend which I'll talk to you about, and maybe I can find time for a massage on the beach. We'll see. But anyhow, a hunger and fullness. I don't think I've got a score in here for some reason, but in terms of my hunger, let's just say it's been about 9.5 every day of the week, hence me going over my calories every day. And it's so interesting to think about this, and maybe you guys have had the same experience. You might go back to earlier weeks of your prep. Now, I'm looking at all my data here. Let's see how many weeks I've been sitting at 1,300 calories. So we've got 1370, 1370, 1390, 1380, 1390. That was Australia. 1400, 1340, 13, 14, 12, 13. So I have been on these low calories around this 1300 number for a while now. But you can see it's enabled me to keep losing, at the rate that I've needed to. But back then, I wasn't anywhere near as hungry. So if I go back here and have a look at my food focus, I've got scores of 6, 7. There was 5s back here, and my overall hunger levels were not that high. 6, 7, 6, 7. They kind of had a higher week here of 8. But scrolling down to now, it's been around a 9. So I'm just going to pop that in because I know I have been extremely hungry. So despite not really changing my caloric goal, why is it that I am so much more hungry? Well, the reason is I'm losing body fat. As my body fat levels come down, my leptin 2 goes down, and that drives up that subjective hunger or thoughts of food. So it is frustrating because I'm like, why is it so much more difficult for me to hit these numbers now than it did like 10 weeks ago? And, that's why. So, I can have all the same foods prepped. You can be doing your damn best at making sure you've got great food variety, but your hunger levels are just going to innately be greater, further into that fat loss phase. So you've got to give yourself some compassion in those moments, and just remind yourself, hey, I've made a lot of progress. I understand why. Not to be too unkind to yourself, but just, recognize all of those implications of dieting. So that was my compliance for the week. It is frustrating, but I'm doing everything that I can to just get through. And again, I also want to make sure that this doesn't cause me to kind of relapse into a place of dysfunctional eating. And I'm going over my targets, but the alternative would be to relapse into dysfunctional eating behaviors, and I don't want that. So, if I ended up restricting down to that 1240 on a week where, I needed to hit those numbers, I guess there's the potential, depending on how hungry I am feeling in that day, or in that given moment, it might lead me to end up having, a binge eating episode, which I don't want. So I'm taking the smartest route possible, which is, okay, you are going to eat something in the next 1 hour. Like, there's just no buts about it. Okay, what's the smartest decision that you can make around some food? So still trying to make really good decisions, low calorie decisions, but making sure I'm not just kind of grazing where it doesn't really feel satiating, but I'm having an actual meal. I'm just owning it. And then, that usually kind of does the job. And then I, focus on just having another solid day of movement the next day. So coming over to my training, this week I came in at almost 5,000 calories total energy expenditure for the week. However, there's a little area where I haven't tracked any calories, and it was when I was supposed to do a spin or a bike ride or Stairmaster or any cardio for that matter. If you recall, my previous goals last week were to get around 1,200 calories worth of exercise, and that can be from whatever I like, low intensity, high intensity, it doesn't matter. Calories are calories at the end of the day. It's just how much time have you got to burn them. So that was my goal last week. That would have required me to do 4 30-minute rides, like pretty intense rides on my Peloton. On Sunday, I didn't do that. I chose to do some labor and housekeeping. So I actually have my house on the market at the moment. And one of the things that I want to do is renovate the front room. I originally had it set up as a gym. So I actually recently just sold all of the gym equipment because I wasn't really using it here. It was nice if I was, really late finishing work and I didn't want to go to the gym, I could just, I've got all the dumbbells up to 120s, I have my cable, all of that good stuff. I can basically do a whole workout. It's great. But I wasn't really using it. And I was like, okay, I want to get my house sold, so I need to fix up that front room. So we're basically staging it now as another bedroom. So over the weekend, there was a lot of back and forth to like Home Depot, organizing things like that. I spent the weekend painting one of the cupboards that kind of covers across where my laundry sits. So like I've got like the washer and dryer. So it was like a bamboo timber color, and it doesn't really match anything else in my house, which is all like nudes. Sorry, it's white and gray. So I went and got some paintbrush to paint that. So that was one of my like housekeeping jobs on the weekend. and then also ordered some brand new ceiling fans and lights for my patio. So again, I originally had the ones that were here when I bought this property. They were like a bamboo kind of, I don't know, tiki style, which might have looked great back when the building was not white and charcoal grey. But now they just looked crappy and they're a little bit old. So I was like, I can kind of dress that area up and get it looking really nice. So yeah, we spent probably at least a little bit of time on both Saturday and Sunday disassembling, pulling them apart, and like rewiring these outdoor fans. So we spent lots of time at Home Depot getting like bolts and drills and screw bits and all the good stuff. So although I didn't do any intentional like true exercise, this was a lot more of an active day for me than what I would probably normally do if I wasn't doing, you know, house labor. So quite a few calories would have been expended there, and that probably would have got me close to my goal, which was 5,400 calories for the week of planned exercise. So I already did 1,800 calories through all of my walking. And again, you can see on this day I chose not to do a walk. Because we were in the car going over to different shops, walking around up and down Lowe's or Home Depot and all of those other things. Okay, you're not going to fit right in front of me right now, bro. Why don't you go and sit with the other 3 cats or 2 cats? Hey, buddy. This is my cat who loves food. He often has been known to eat all the other cats' foods, haven't you, Kay? You're definitely a foodie. You're like your mama. Down you get. Okay, sorry about that. So no walking on Sunday, and you can see here my steps were quite low, but moving around in general, doing things. I have like the biggest shoulder pump from painting, like going up and down for like an hour. Sorry, that was my exercise for the week. I'm still pretty happy with it. I mean, I'm so tired. You know, Sunday I felt like I was just a living zombie. I can see striations in everything. I have my abs. I know I'm ready, but yeah, I was exhausted. So at the end of the day, I had the opportunity to potentially go for a walk or hop into bed and just watch a TV or an episode. I was like, you know what? I'm actually just going to rest up today. I know that I didn't hit my steps, but this wouldn't necessarily be a valuable or positive thing for me to go and get my extra steps in today. I think I'll just make sure that I start the week fresh. Already got up this morning, done my walk, got my training coming up this afternoon. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about that. So that is on my data. With that being said, no adjustments to my calories this week, other than I do have a wedding coming up. So on Saturday, I have taken my calories up here. You can see to 1440. So I have lowered my protein just a little bit. I'm still in that reference range. I've taken up my carbohydrates from 110 to 150. And then I'm giving myself about 40 grams of fats, which is not a lot, which we know. But it will give me some flexibility to at least be able to taste what's on my plate for the actual wedding. So that's my plan there. And then the other 6 days of the week, I will be sitting at 1237. So I'm bringing my carbs down to 110 and then 33 on these days. So that's the nutrition goal. You can see that the overall calories are basically unchanged. It's just doing a bit of calorie cycling to afford some more flexibility on Saturday. We've also got a hotel booked in the area for the wedding, which is right on the beach. So that'll be nice to kind of get all my training out of the way this week. You can see here, I think on my client tracking sheet, I've already got planned Monday through Friday, my 5-day training program, the Miss Bikini Olympia program, which if you guys are subscribed to my new app, Be a Fit, you'll be able to do it too. And then I've got my spin or Stairmaster or whatever it ends up being planned out as well. And then I will definitely be doing a 60-minute walk every single day to get my 12,000 steps in. So I think that's about all in terms of my data for this week. I do want to talk a little bit about, or at least just show you some of the fun things that we got up to over the weekend and some of the foods that I had. So I made a little list here and I'm going to pop up on the screen for you all of the delicious things that we tried. So first off, I want to again just point you back to the egg white beef omelette and veggie. I guess it's a beef and vegetable omelette, but you just grill the ground beef, which is the 96% fat-free variety. I'll put like mixed peppers, cherry tomatoes, broccoli, a broccoli slaw, zucchini noodles or yellow squash, anything like that. And then I just put in the egg white over the top with some seasonings, and it is so delicious. And then I'll top it with like the Laughing Cow cheese wedges, and then some of my low calorie like Miller's mustard sauce or any kind of condiment that is low FODMAP. So that has been absolutely delicious, and it's like the size of the plate. It's so delicious. I talked a little bit before about the crepe stack with the berries. I've been doing that a little bit this week, and if I don't use the high fiber wraps, I will use the little corn crispies that I think I showed you last week in my video. So yeah, these are really great. I think they're like $21 or something on Amazon, so they're kind of expensive for what you're getting. It comes in a pack of 3, and I think each bag has like 40 of these corn cakes. But just for some diversity from not eating rice cakes all the time, which gets so boring, it's nice to have like a corn flavor instead. And it's, again, a FODMAP friendly product. I can use it because it's a corn-based product. Now, on to Friday. So I actually saved room on Friday. I knew Sam was coming down, so I wanted to be able to enjoy a glass of wine. I actually went to a specialty wine, or I guess a liquor store here, and went through. I wanted to try a new wine. Again, it's like you've done all this work through the week days. I wanted to be able to relax and enjoy something really nice. It was like just a little treat to myself. So I got a really nice bottle of wine, and we actually just sat out on the patio and enjoyed that until the sun went down. And then we just walked over to one of our favorite restaurants here in Fort Lauderdale, and we ordered, check this out, it was so good, the Korean barbecue chicken, which I'm trying to explore another recipe, I think, this week. I've ordered some new products, so next week's video, when I do like my peak week, I'll be able to show you in the recipes what that product actually is. Hopefully it turns out good, but so freaking good. So Korean barbecue chicken, and then I also ordered for a starter like an ahi tuna tartare. So it's like really thinly sliced pieces of tuna, and then it's served with this like mango salsa, and it's kind of like a sweet and sour dressing over the top. It's like got sesame oil, there's probably rice wine vinegar, there's probably lemon in there, lime juice, but that's really, really nice and very low calorie. So that was our starter. And then for a main, I ordered the ahi tuna crusted steak. That was served on like a bed of rice, so I just had a couple of bites of that. And then it also had like these little fried rice balls, which disappointingly I only had one, but it was so good. And then I also ordered a Caesar salad on the side. Again, put all my condiments to the side so that I could be in control of exactly how much I was eating. And then I had, I think, like a piece of Sam's sushi, which has looked so good. So you can see that on the screen here. So that was really nice. So again, I managed to fit that into, we go back to my master data sheet, Friday. So this day I only had 1363 calories. So I managed to fit all of that into these targets here. And again, that was just by making really smart choices earlier in the day. Very low carb, probably under 15 for the 2 meals that I had. And again, that's just that giant veggie omelette that you saw before. And then I had another big veggie stir-fry dish that I've been loving. And I think I probably also had a bolognese in there too with zucchini noodles. So I fit all that in and was able to enjoy, tastings of all of these different things here. So that was good. And then Saturday was, I guess we had a big training day on Saturday. But I also was able to fit in 2 different cocktails that evening. So I think collectively the macros for those came in at like 40 grams of carbohydrates. So that means that I would have had 80 left for the day on actual foods from carbohydrate. And then I ordered these tuna, I guess ahi tuna. I always get that just because it's basically fat-free. On these little rice tostones. Holy moly, they were so good. So I managed to fit that in, and then I also ordered another serving of ahi tuna on the side. So that was just kind of like a light tapas, in the evening. We didn't have a big meal like we would normally. So that was really fun. We went to this bar that had some awesome music. It was a really interesting crowd. They had like all different ages, but it was like my genre of music or era of music. So I'm 35. So when I was in college, it was like they were doing play or throwbacks of all of those songs, but like with a house remix over the top. So like the whole bar, like I looked around, I'm like, everyone knows all these songs. It was so good. Everyone's like up yelling and dancing and singing. It was so cool. So we had a lot of fun that night. And then on Sunday, that was, I guess, the busy, doing chores. We went and trained in the morning. And then it was just kind of doing stuff, pottering around the house. And on that day, I made us both a salmon Benedict. There are a couple of brands of smoked salmon that you can get that are fat-free. So I can't recall the exact brand, but they exist even at Publix and at Walmart. I believe they both sell the fat-free or 0.5 grams of fat per serving of smoked salmon. So I did that with a brioche bun. I didn't have the bread, he did. But that was really great. And I made a homemade hollandaise sauce using like a packet mix. And again, that was really low calorie, and I used extra light butter instead of the real deal. And it doesn't have any of the egg yolk or anything like that. So it kind of tastes similar. It's got that nice like lemony flavor, but without all the calories. So we made a smoked salmon dish. And then I also had some of the veggie omelette again. And then in the evening, I also squeezed in an M&M chocolate gelato and lots of jello. So that day was definitely not a very like nutritious day, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. I know I had some veggies. I had 2 servings veggies. I had some carbohydrate, but mostly veggies. I had 3 different types of protein servings. Look, it's not a bad day. And again, if I was trying to be like the most micronutrient rich diet, like this particular day would have failed miserably. But, thankfully we don't have to look at, one day in isolation. We look at the entire week, and I eat more veggies than most people, I can tell you now. So I'm not too worried about my micronutrient intake being low or anything like that. So those were some of the fun things I got to eat this week, but let's pop over and have a look at the questions on last week's YouTube video. So that was the week 16 video. So you can see some of my yummy ice creams and pizzas and some wine. That was such a fun day. But let's go and look at the questions. So here's a great question. This question is about managing binges. If I understand well, you seem to have overcome this. I've observed that I spend so much time planning meals, buying expensive, high-quality products, and being really diligent and eating well most of the time, but then it can all come undone with one mindless sitting with some ice cream or a weekend meals and drinks with friends, and when I finally get to let loose and my calorie intake is just far too high. And I always regret it later. I know the feeling. It can be really frustrating, and I hope that I can give you some feedback about that. I wouldn't label myself as having full-blown binge eating disorder or syndrome, but I certainly don't beat myself up for more than a moment, but I'm just so drawn in by sugar, it's just being my undoing. Do you have any advice or resources that you can help that might help somebody in my shoes? Thanks a million. So I guess that's an interesting one. I want to actually start with the binge eating disorder classification. So I found a article just before, not an article, it's actually published in the National Library of Medicine on, I guess, how to diagnose binge eating disorder. And I think some of you might actually like to know whether you fall into this category because there is a distinct criterion in order to do so. So the first criterion is reoccurrent episodes of binge eating. An episode of binge eating is characterized by both of the following. So the first is eating in a discrete period of time within a 2-hour period, an amount of food that is definitely larger than what most people would eat in a similar time period under similar circumstances. And then B, having the sense or lack of control over eating during these episodes. So feeling like you can't stop eating or control what or how much you are eating. So that's one of the criteria. Now, if you didn't have any of the others that I'm listing here today, then you do not have binge eating disorder. So criterion 2 is binge eating episodes are associated with the 3 or more of the following. So eating much more rapidly than normal. And I will say, as somebody that had experienced that in the past quite a bit, I could eat so many calories in such a short period of time because it's almost like you are so deprived that, your body can't get it in quick enough. So the speed that you eat is certainly a lot faster than what would be normal. Eating until you feel uncomfortably full, and that might end up meaning that you've got really distended abdominals. It might be very uncomfortable and painful. Eating large amounts of food, not even when you're not feeling physically hungry. This is another common one. It's not necessarily that there is any true physiological need. You might not have a rumbling tummy or anything at all. You're just thinking about food, and then maybe something triggers you, and then you eat to the point of discomfort. Another one is eating alone because of being embarrassed by how much one is eating. So we call this secret eating. That is really common. I know a lot of people feel a lot of shame about that, but again, this is one of the things that I would work through with clients that are struggling with this type of behavior. And then feeling disgust with oneself, depressed, or even guilty after overeating. So again, these are all really common for people that do suffer with binge eating disorder. It's also marked with lots of distress after that episode takes place. And then the frequency is also really important. So criterion 4 is the binge eating occurs on average at least 2 days a week for 6 months, or at least 1 day a week for 3 months. And then there are different classifications here. Then criterion 5 is the binge eating is not associated with the regular use of inappropriate or compensatory behaviors. So it doesn't have to be accompanied with purging or fasting or excessive exercise. And this is why it's not uncommon to see people with binge eating disorder sitting at a normal body fat percentage, like a healthy body weight, or in some cases still sitting at a higher body fat percentage than what would be considered healthy. And then down here, it classes the severity or the grading. So there's mild, moderate, severe, and extreme. So I wanted to read that out to you just so that you have a bit of an understanding about the actual criterion for binge eating disorder. So maybe you can kind of apply some of that to your own experiences. But I think more importantly, what are, I guess, some of the common causes for why we find ourselves overeating? And then I'll talk a little bit about what some of the things are that you can potentially implement, at home to reduce its frequency or to help kind of overcome it. But most importantly, I would say work with a qualified professional to help you get through this, because it can be really difficult trying to do this alone, especially if you don't have, the background or expertise to navigate that. So I think the main 3 causes for people overeating or struggling with binge eating disorder are the psychological factors. So people that are struggling with high amounts of stress, if they're extremely anxious people, maybe they suffer from depression. I know I was all 3 of those at one point. They have really low self-esteem. They have body dissatisfaction. All of those different psychological factors are linked to binge eating disorder. And unfortunately, food becomes the coping mechanism. But that is not a proactive way to cope with the emotion. So again, this is kind of related to emotional eating. So rather than actually finding an active form of coping, a form of coping that actually gets to the bottom or the root cause of the stress or the anxiety or whatever the emotion is that you feel that then triggers you into wanting to numb, wanting to dissociate, wanting to detach. Those types of forms of coping are much more favorable than, reverting to, using food as a coping mechanism. So I think that was really important to kind of identify. Then another thing, I guess, is just chronic restriction and dieting all the time. If you are overly restricting your calories, so you've got very little energy availability based on how much you're moving your body, how much you're doing, and how much your body needs, that is just the perfect recipe for disaster. Your body's not doing anything wrong by gesturing and signaling you need to eat food. So if you're constantly restricting and you're not actually giving yourself enough food, it is no wonder that at some point you can't withstand any longer and then you go crazy. You want to eat all the things because your body's trying to nourish you and get you the energy that you need. And then I guess in a similar school of thought is overly restrictive diets. So diets that don't give any flexibility. I think a really good example are meal plans, and this is one of the reasons why I do not prescribe them anymore. I think a very, very small subset of individuals work really well with a meal plan, but for the majority of us, particularly with our busy lifestyles, there is very little, I guess, positive outcomes that come from following a really rigid meal plan. we need flexibility. That is something that I think is important to allow sustainability. So, and then the third main cause would be the environmental influences. So, how accessible are, extremely calorically dense foods to you? Are you living in maybe an apartment complex where to get through to the back of the building, you have to go past, a couple of different cafes or restaurants, that it's constant temptation. Lots of, energy dense, calorically dense foods that are kind of tempting you to want to go and overeat. And of course, they taste amazing. Why wouldn't you want to eat more of those things? But it can often offset or counter, a health goal that you might have. So I think that environmental influence can be really important. Similarly said, I think just walking past something that smells really good. So, going past a bakery where they've got fresh baked cookies or some kind of delicious, bread product, that can be enough to, cause somebody to end up ordering something that is outside of their caloric requirements at the time. So it's not a true physiological need. It's not really an emotional cue to eat. It's an environmental cue that might be encouraging you to eat. And then the other thing, I guess, is also your social influences. So, in a social setting, often just by way of our cultural norms, food is so intertwined with, the activities that we do to spend time with people that we care about. So, unfortunately, in those situations, where food is kind of the focal point, unfortunately, it shouldn't be. It should be part of the experience, but it shouldn't be the only focus of the experience. It's really about the company and the people and the, that opportunity that you have to create a fun memory. That should be the focus, but often it becomes just about the food. So those are some of the common causes of over-consuming. I think number 2 to me and number 1 are probably the most common that I see. So we want to go back and look at the root cause of the emotion, whether it's sadness, depression, anxiety, stress, any of those kinds of emotions. And what is the belief maybe that's behind them? So in the case of having really low self-esteem, where does that belief come from? So we've actually got to work on changing the narrative, changing the belief, so that person doesn't have that same psychological or heightened emotional experience, which then causes them to cope through using food. And we also want to look to find more practical strategies for overcoming stress or overcoming anxiety. It's okay at times to use food to, help manage an emotion. Think about all the fun movies that we watch, the rom-coms where someone, sits down with all their girlfriends and they indulge in a giant tub of ice cream, and that's just the emotional coping. That is okay at times. I do think it's perfectly reasonable to do that. But when it's the only way that we know how to cope, and it's not very active, it's not a proactive way to help actually fix the solution or the problem, that's when it can become problematic, particularly when you've also got this coupled health goal that, high caloric foods don't necessarily work very well with. So, I think really getting to the bottom of treating the underlying cause. And then in terms of the caloric restriction and overly strict diets, that too is something that I see a lot, and really the way to kind of minimize those overeating occasions. I know in this case you had talked about, getting out with friends, kind of letting loose. I think when you've really severely deprived yourself of those types of foods, then it's no wonder when you do become face-to-face with those types of temptations. And of course, naturally, they're delicious. Why wouldn't you want to eat them? It just makes it a lot more challenging to eat an appropriately portioned size, for your true physiological needs. It's not about the physiological hunger. It's about the deprivation that we've applied, and we've brought it on ourselves by not allowing those foods to present frequently in our diet. So it's one of the reasons for me why I still will go out and enjoy, dinner and lunch and breakfast, on the weekends. If I restricted myself from that and then I, finally do get an opportunity to go out and enjoy a meal, it would be so much more difficult to manage, a normal sized meal, because I would be psychologically deprived. The physiological hunger, that doesn't matter. Like, you can eat well beyond fullness if you've got a psychological driver. So for you, what I would recommend is maybe allowing a little bit more flexibility during the week. It might mean that the nutritional quality of your diet reduces slightly. So what I mean by that is, you could map out this perfect high fiber diet every single day of the week. You could have 30 grams of fiber. You've got every colored vegetable. You've got all the fruits. You've got all of the breads, grains, and cereals, and you've just got a magic diet. But if it doesn't hit the spot up here, so it might provide and confer all the health benefits. It's nutritionally balanced. It might provide enough physiological satisfaction in that it provides you with dietary fiber. Your tummy's going to be full. But if it doesn't give you psychological satisfaction and pleasure, then it's more likely that when you are around foods that kind of hit the pleasure center, it's going to be more difficult to navigate. So I would suggest, even if it means like one of your 4 or 5 meals a day are something that are really fun. I do like the M&M mixed in Ninja Creamy ice creams. And that might be sacrificing 300 calories, and I could sure have another meal that's much higher in fiber with veggies. But I know if I did that all the time, I would end up just binge eating anyway. So, it's actually better for me from a sustainability perspective to give myself, some of those fun foods. Now, I'm not going to be this calorically restricted forever, that's for sure. So, once I'm out of this fat loss phase, naturally I can start to broaden my, scope of foods anyway. And then I don't kind of feel that same pull or obsession with those types of food products. Okay, so coming down, there is another question here, and it says, I would love to hear your knowledge surrounding alcohol and its effect on hormonal balance and metabolism, as you're one of the only competitive athletes that I have seen that still is able to fit in a cocktail or two. So I actually discussed this in quite a bit of detail in one of the earlier check-in videos. So if you haven't watched the full series, I would highly recommend just going back to the beginning, because every week I answer something new. And if you want to bypass all of my data, of course you can do that. But usually at the end is when I respond to all of the YouTube questions. So I can't recall exactly which one it was, but I definitely talk about how to track alcohol, why I track it specifically as a carbohydrate. And then I go through and I talk about all of the ways in which alcohol indirectly can impact, your capacity to lose body fat. And then I also talk about how it can directly impact muscle growth if consumed in high quantities. So that is available there. I know that we've also got a resource on my website that has some information about alcohol as well. So if you haven't been over to my company website, so Team Via Body, there is a resources page that has so much information. We are putting new blogs and articles up there all the time, and I hope that they are really helpful for you guys. So I think that's just about everything, I think, for this week's check-in. Again, if you would like to get access to our coaching check-in sheet, so that progress tracker that you see me tracking on every week, please go and take a look at the description for this video on YouTube. There are like 15 different links for various resources. Progress tracker is included, previous training programs are included, all of the recipes are included, free chapters of my books are included. There is so much stuff available, and if you'd like to be on our weekly newsletter, you can also subscribe to the newsletter, and that'll get you or keep you up to date with anything new that we've got going on, new workouts being launched on the app, all of that good stuff. So I'd highly recommend subscribing to our page as well. So that's all from me, guys. Wish me luck. I am very excited. I've got my new bikini here. I don't think I showed you this one earlier. So I've got to go and get it altered, but this is one of the colors that I could potentially wear. And then I've also got this beautiful blue one as well. So I tried these on this morning. The tops fit wonderfully. The bottoms need a little bit of an adjustment, but I am so excited. We are just days away. So yeah, I guess I'll see you in my final check-in before my comp.